They envy me my hills of fair, the white gulls calling in the soft sea air. So much to lose, and yet I leave the hills of fair and live in a desert if I had you there. What would I lose if I could choose? If I could choose a place to walk with you.
Good evening and welcome to Paddy Con's.
Paddy Con's Hall was opened on the 24th of September 1950. The Bruce Walsh Arcadia Orchestra from Castlebar, they opened it, and dancing was from 9 until 4 a.m. Admission was 10 shillings, which was the equivalent of 50p. According to the stories, it was one of the biggest ballrooms in Munster, and its main feature was the sprung maple floor, which was excellent to dance on. Paddy Con McMahon was a renowned builder in Ennis in those days, and apparently he absolutely spared no expense when it came to building his ballroom. He hired in people from Italy to lay the terrazzo, entrance hall and main staircase, which is quite a lovely feature of this building. Victor Sylvester played quite a lot here in the earlier days, and he walked this floor with Paddy Con McMahon one night and said it was the greatest dance floor in the British Isles.
Dances were usually on a Sunday night. Usual thing before, well, when I was single before I met Margaret. We would go to the local pub and have a few pints, and then we'd face for Paddy Con's. Everybody walked and cycled, of course, at that time. No, very few people had cars.
We always had a few girls like together. I wasn't ever on my own. We used to cycle in.
Bands were usually, well, there were mostly Irish bands. You had one or two from England, Victor Sylvester was our outstanding band. You had a few bands from Castlebar. One was called Bruce Welsh, the other one was Stephen Garvey. You had a band from Rimley called Johnny McMahon. The place would be packed.
The creme de creme of entertainers performed on that stage up there, including Jim Reeves, the Everly Brothers, Ted Heath Orchestra, Victor Sylvester. They were all the international ones. But then, of course, we had all our own homegrown Irish show bands of the 60s and 70s. Brendan Boyer and the Big Eight, the Dixies.
Here's a dance you should know. Hey, baby, when the lights are down. Oh, hey, run.
We actually had Tommy Drennan and the Monarchs here ourselves for another dance.
A little bit of twist, a little bit of this. If you don't know how to do it, ask my little sis.
Paddy Con's was the new hall, always, you know, and we played in it. I always remember, I loved playing in it. I do remember that. It had a fabulous high stage that I loved. Do you know, it was great. And there was a lovely feel of communication with the crowd. I used to like that a lot, you know. And you'd see certain girls who'd want certain fellas to ask them, you know, and they'd be hanging back until he came along, you know. You'd see all of that stuff going on. We saw a lot of that, yeah. You could actually see a lot of stuff from the stage that people didn't realise that you were watching. And I always remember that you'd be looking at it and there was a smashing big floor and there was a lovely big balcony all the way around, you know. And there'd be people looking down on that. And the T-bar would be down on the right-hand side. Great jivers. I always remember that. Here in Ennis, tremendous jiving. Do you know? There was great dancing and the rock and roll Elvis Presley stuff and good country music jiving and oh sure, Lord bless us, you know.
My late husband John and myself, we purchased this hall in 1989, and it was in a very derelict condition in those days. There were no windows, the doors were literally hanging off, and the ivy was growing down the walls. And it was very sad to see the demise of such a lovely premises. So we did the best we could to restore it to the way it would have been in its heyday. Ironically, we opened our furniture store with a dance, which we called the Last Chance Dance in the Ballroom of Romance. We brought back the original band that opened it in 1990, but now we had a 3-generation band at this stage. It was the Bruce Walsh band from Castlebar again. The reaction came really after the opening night when we had the dance. A lot of the townspeople actually came to John and myself, and even some wrote letters requesting not to open it as a furniture store, but to retain it as a ballroom.
I got a tumble down shack at the back of the woods, but I ain't got a cent, so I can't pay the rent. But I got, yeah, I know what I got.
I started in 1963 with the freshmen in the north of Ireland. The 60s was the buzzy time, you know, and we were all, I was mad for the rock and roll as well. So this was a great opportunity. So I went to the north of Ireland, in Ballymena actually, with the freshmen, and I stayed with them for nearly a year. Then the Monarchs in Limerick, which was where I was from, they had started a band in around the same time. So I got involved with the Monarchs. We did a Sunshine Lover, which was a kind of a rock and roll-y thing. We had ballads like I Pretend. We did a Christmas thing that they still play, Oh Holy Night. As the years go on, when you're asked, you know, sign, it used to be sign that for my sister, and then it became sign that from my mammy, and now it's sign that from my granny. So I'll tell you, time is moving on, and that's a certainty.
Dream, dream, dream when I feel blue in the night and I need you to hold me tight.
The memories are still there from many, many people who come in here to share their stories from the past with us.
I came down to Ennis by train on the 5th of December 1950, the whole year.
I saw John before I met him. Spotted him, I suppose, and said, well, there's another new fella in town, you know. On our way home from work, we'd be looking, and the man would be pasting up the bills, and then we'd be going with the news, who's coming. It was very exciting because you really didn't know until then, you see. Victor Sylvester and his orchestra were billed to come to town on the 21st of May, and that was a big occasion, really. So John decided anyhow that maybe he'd ask, so he asked to see if I would go with him to this dance, and sure, I said I would, but I'd have to ask my parents.
I need you so that
I had to walk across the floor, of course, yes.
Is it your mother, you said? Your mother told me to
Take you for a dance.
been smart. He walked across the floor and asked me to dance, and he went away. I said, that's it, goodbye. And after about 3 or 4 dances again, he came back again to me, and he asked me to dance again. So then he said, can I see you home? That was the way he said it. My sister worked in Our Ladies Hospital.
And I knew her, you know, and that's a bit.
And he kind of knew me from there, from
meeting with the two of them,
and then he asked me to dance, and it went from there.
and then I took her upstairs and bought her a bottle of wine. And then we took a little walk up the road, and she went on her bicycle out right in
He
bed.
didn't even offer to come out with me.
I was full of charm at that time, oh God, with the stuff.
dream, dream, dream when I feel blue in the night and I need you to hold me tight whenever I want you. All I have to do.
I remember one evening of Corpus Christi, there was a procession in the town, and I met a friend of mine after the procession, and we went for a drink, right? And instead of having one drink, I had 5 drinks. I went into Paddy Con's anywhere, wherever, and I saw this girl sitting down on her own, and I went over. I asked her to dance, right? And we got on fine until I got up to the corner, and the ballroom came up to me. The floor came up and hit me in the face. Oh, I said, I beg your pardon, love, I have to go.
lot of nearly grandparents are bringing their grandchildren here and saying, this is where I met your granddad. Most stories are very happy ones, very good memories for a lot of people, but we have heard the odd one where this particular lady one day said, I wish Paddy Con's had been burnt, she says. I threw the ring back at him over there in that corner. If the walls could talk.
I put up a great fight, great battle. But eventually I caved in and we got married. And she should be very honoured because it was the first girl I ever took a picture of her dance.
And we were married 45 years this September.
Rita had a boyfriend, she had several boyfriends, but she had this particular fella that had a motor car at the time. And if you had a motor car, you could get a princess that time, right? So I saw her taking off with her boyfriend this particular evening while they were going out of her. But I felt a little pang there in my... It was then I knew that I was in love with Rita. I must be falling over her. You know, I felt something. Yeah. I suppose that's why we're together for the last 48 years.
Imagine. Cool, clear water.
Oh, cold, clear water, yes.
Keep
Cold,
moving
clear
then.
water. I don't know. I couldn't think of it now.
Keep a moving, Dan, don't you listen to him, Dan. He's a devil, not a man, but he spreads the burning sands with water. Water. Cool,
water.
Clear water.
Keep a moving, Dan, don't you listen to him, Dan. He's the devil, not a man, and he spreads the burning sand with water. Dan, can you see that big green tree where the water's running free and it's waiting there for me?
Leave my hills of clay, the white gulls calling in the soft sea air. So much to lose, and yet I leave the hills of Clare and live in a desert if I had you there. What would I lose if I could choose? If I could choose a place to walk with you, I'd choose the longest road, and it would lead us to a house that no one knew. Bellows by the fire, and the turf smoke rising higher than the lark that wings and always.
Good night, God bless, and safe home.
If I could choose a place to walk with you, I'd choose the longest road, and it would lead us to a house that no one knew. Bellows by the fire, and the turf smoke rising higher than the lark that wings and always sings of you. If I could choose a time to